The desert has a way of keeping time differently than we do. Out here, beneath the relentless gaze of the sun and the cold indifference of the stars, centuries dissolve into moments. We look at the sand and see wasteland. But if you know where to look, and more importantly, how to look, the sand speaks. It tells a story that doesn't match the textbooks. It whispers of a time when humanity wasn't just struggling to survive, but was perhaps thriving in ways we have forgotten. Imagine a world where the pyramids were built with tools we can barely comprehend today. Imagine ancient maps charting continents that, according to our history books, hadn't been discovered yet. Lands locked under miles of ice that shouldn't have been visible to the human eye. Did our ancestors possess a scientific understanding that defies everything we think we know about history? Or have we simply underestimated the brilliance of the human mind, only to lose that brilliance to the ravages of time? Tonight, we aren't just looking at stones. We are looking at the fingerprints of a lost chapter of human history. We are diving into the startling evidence that suggests ancient civilizations were far more technologically advanced than you've ever been told. To understand the anomaly, we must first strip away the romance. Forget the movies. Forget the idea of hundreds of thousands of slaves dragging rocks with hemp ropes and copper chisels. We need to look at the physics. We need to look at the Giza Plateau not as a tomb, but as an engineering marvel that we, with all our cranes, lasers, and hydraulic lifts, would struggle to replicate today. Walk with me to the base of the Great Pyramid. Stand there for a moment. Look up. It is a mountain of artificial geometry. 2.3 million blocks of stone. Some weigh as much as 70 tons. That is the weight of 10 large elephants compressed into a single block, lifted hundreds of feet into the air, and placed with a precision so fine that you cannot slide a credit card between the joints. Historians tell us this was done with copper chisels and stone hammers. But copper is a soft metal. It bends, it blunts against limestone, and it shatters against granite. And yet, inside the king's chamber, we find red granite blocks brought from Aswan, over 500 miles away. These blocks are cut with such absolute flatness that even modern optical equipment detects only microscopic deviations. Christopher Dunn, an engineer with decades of experience in high-precision manufacturing, stood in these chambers. He didn't see a tomb, he saw a machine. When he examined the granite boxes in the Serapeum of Saqqara, huge gloss-black coffins weighing up to 100 tons, he found something impossible. The corners were not just square, they were perfectly square. The surfaces were not just smooth, they were perfectly flat to within 2/10,000ths of an inch. To achieve that level of precision today, we use diamond-tipped bits and computer-guided machinery spinning at high velocity. We use abrasives and ultrasonic drilling. If you try to cut granite with a handsaw and sand, you get a rough, uneven cut. You do not get a mirror finish that reflects the face of the observer like a dark pool of water. So, how? How did a civilization that supposedly hadn't yet invented the wheel or the iron pulley achieve a level of manufacturing fidelity that rivals the aerospace industry? Flinders Petrie, the father of modern Egyptology, was a meticulous man. In the late 1800s, he studied the drill cores found around Giza. These are cylindrical plugs of stone, waste product from a hollow drill. When Petrie looked closely at the grooves spiraling around the core, he calculated the feed rate, the speed at which the drill penetrated the stone. The calculations were staggering. The tool that cut these rocks was moving into the granite at a rate of 1/10 of an inch per revolution. For context, modern diamond drills cut at a fraction of that speed. Petrie concluded that the Egyptians must have had tools tipped with jewels, seemingly applying 2 tons of pressure while spinning. We are left with a picture that doesn't fit the frame. We see the result of high technology, but we don't see the machines. It is like finding a microchip in a coal seam. It shouldn't be there. And it suggests that the Old Kingdom Egyptians were heirs to a legacy of technical prowess that they perhaps didn't invent, but utilized. Or that we have fundamentally misunderstood the timeline of human innovation. Let's move forward in time. but deeper into the mystery. The year is 1901. A group of sponge divers seeking shelter from a violent storm drop anchor off the coast of the tiny Greek island of Antikythera. When the storm clears, they dive. They aren't looking for history, they are looking for sponges. But down in the gloom, 50 meters beneath the surface, one diver sees a nightmare. He sees a pile of rotting corpses, horses, and twisted limbs. He surfaces in a panic. But it wasn't bodies. It was a shipwreck, laden with bronze statues lying on the seabed for 2,000 years. Among the beautiful statues of marble and bronze, they hauled up a lump of corroded rock. It looked like nothing. A calcified, green-encrusted brick. It sat in a museum storage room in Athens, ignored, drying out, until one day it cracked open. Inside that lump of rock were gears. Precision-cut, triangular-toothed bronze gears. Differential gears. This is the Antikythera mechanism. It has been called the first analog computer. It dates back to the 2nd century BC. Before this discovery, historians believed that gear systems of this complexity didn't appear until the mechanical clocks of the European Middle Ages, more than 1,000 years later. This device could predict eclipses, track the movements of the sun, the moon, and 5 planets. It adjusted for the irregular orbit of the moon, a variable known as the lunar anomaly. To build this required a grasp of astronomy and mathematics that rivals the Renaissance, packaged in a box the size of a laptop. But here is the chilling part. Technology does not exist in a vacuum. You don't just wake up one morning and invent the iPhone without centuries of telegraphs, radios, and transistors coming first. The Antikythera mechanism is complex, refined, and perfect. It is not a prototype. It is a mature technology. Which begs the question, where are the prototypes? Where are the failed attempts? Where is the lineage of this machine? Its existence proves that the ancient world possessed a mechanical genius that was utterly wiped out, lost to the Dark Ages, only to be painstakingly reinvented a millennium later. It is a stark reminder that progress is not a straight line. It is a fragile candle, easily extinguished. From the depths of the ocean, we turn to the archives of Constantinople. 1929. Historians discover a map compiled in 1513 by the Ottoman admiral and cartographer Piri Reis. At first glance, it is a beautiful artifact of naval history. But when you look closer, the geography begins to unsettle you. Piri Reis noted that he compiled this map from 20 older source maps, some dating back to the time of Alexander the Great, and some, he claimed, were even older. The map shows the western coast of Africa and the eastern coast of South America with surprising accuracy. But your eye travels south, down the coast of Brazil, past Uruguay, and you see something that shouldn't be there. You see a landmass connecting to South America, a coastline that looks suspiciously like Antarctica. But not the Antarctica we know, a frozen, inhospitable block of white. This coastline shows bays, rivers, and mountains. It shows Queen Maud Land free of ice. Here is the problem. Antarctica was not discovered until 1820. It has been covered in an ice sheet, miles thick, for millions of years. Or so geology tells us. Yet in 1949, a joint British-Swedish reconnaissance mission used sonar to map the ground beneath the ice cap. Their findings match the coastline on the Piri Reis map. How could ancient mapmakers know the shape of a continent buried under ice? Some theorists, like Professor Charles Hapgood, proposed a radical idea: Earth crust displacement. The theory that the outer shell of the Earth can shift over the liquid core, moving continents into different climatic zones rapidly. He suggested that perhaps Antarctica was in a temperate zone much more recently than we believe, inhabited or at least mapped by a seafaring civilization that sailed the globe long before Columbus, long before the Vikings. The US Air Force even weighed in. In a letter to Hapgood in 1960, the commander of the 8th Reconnaissance Technical Squadron admitted that the map's detail of the subglacial coast was correct, stating, The geographic detail shown in the lower part of the map agrees very remarkably with the results of the seismic profile made across the top of the ice cap. We have no idea how the data on this map can be reconciled with the state of geographical knowledge in 1513. If such a civilization existed, one capable of mapping the globe, one capable of engineering the Great Pyramid, where did they go? History is written by the victors, but it is also erased by catastrophes. We know that around 12,800 years ago, the Earth went through a violent upheaval known as the Younger Dryas. Temperatures plummeted. Sea levels rose rapidly, perhaps as much as 400 feet, swallowing coastlines worldwide. If a civilization lived on the coastlines, as we do today, they would have been wiped out. Their cities drowned, their maps rotted, their machines rusted. All that would remain would be the megalithic stone structures too heavy to move, standing as silent tombstones to a forgotten golden age. We call them ancient, implying they were primitive. But what if ancient simply means prior? What if we are like amnesiacs waking up in the ruins of a mansion, marveling at the architecture, unable to remember that we were the ones who built it? The evidence is fragmented. It is elusive. It is often dismissed by mainstream archaeology because it requires rewriting the timeline. It requires admitting that we don't know everything. But the stone boxes at the Serapeum remain. The Antikythera gears remain. The maps remain. They sit there, defiant, mocking our arrogance. They ask us a simple question. Are we the pinnacle of human evolution? Or are we the survivors, climbing back up the ladder, relearning the secrets that our ancestors mastered 10,000 years ago? We have spoken of stone and gears. Now let us speak of energy. In 1938, near Baghdad, Iraq, a German archaeologist named Wilhelm König found a set of peculiar clay jars. They weren't for storing grain. They weren't for wine. Inside each jar was a copper cylinder, and inside that cylinder, suspended by asphalt, was an iron rod. König looked at this configuration and realized it looked familiar. It looked like a galvanic cell, a battery. When filled with an acidic liquid, grape juice, vinegar, or lemon juice, these jars produce a small electrical current. These artifacts date to the Parthian or Sassanid periods, roughly 2,000 years ago. But why? Why did ancient people need electricity? Mainstream scholars suggest they were used for electroplating gold onto silver, a technique assumed to be modern but possibly known to the ancients. But let's push the speculation further. If they had the battery, did they have the bulb? Deep in the crypts of the Hathor Temple at Dendera, there are reliefs that have sparked controversy for decades. Archaeologists tell us they depict a creation myth, a lotus flower spawning a snake inside a bubble. But look at it with modern eyes. The snake looks like a filament. The lotus looks like a socket. The bubble looks like a glass bulb. And underneath, a jed pillar, a symbol of stability, looks remarkably like an insulator or a power source. Connected to the bulb is a cable running to a box. Is this pareidolia? Are we just seeing what we want to see, projecting our modern world onto ancient art? Perhaps, but consider the practicalities. The tombs of the Valley of the Kings are cut hundreds of feet into solid rock. They are intricately painted with vibrant colors. Yet, there is no soot on the ceilings. If they used oil lamps or torches, the ceilings would be blackened by smoke. They are not. Mirrors reflecting sunlight? Experiments show that after a few reflections, the light becomes too weak to paint by. So, how did they see? How did they paint in the pitch black of the deep earth without fire? Did they possess a form of portable, clean light? Light is one mystery. Sound is another. Ancient structures are often celebrated for their visual grandeur, but their acoustic properties are even more baffling. In the Hal Saflieni Hypogeum in Malta, a subterranean sanctuary dating back to 3000 BC, there is a room known as the Oracle Chamber. If a man stands in this chamber and speaks in a deep voice, the sound resonates at a frequency of 110 hertz. This isn't just a cool echo. Neuroscience has shown that when the human brain is exposed to a frequency of 110 hertz, the prefrontal cortex deactivates and the language centers shut down. The brain switches into a state of creative, intuitive processing, a trance state. Did the builders of Malta stumble upon this by accident? Or did they understand the science of psychoacoustics? Did they build their temples not just as places of worship, but as machines to alter human consciousness? Return to the Great Pyramid. Some engineers have suggested that the pyramid itself is a massive harmonic oscillator. The granite beams above the king's chamber are tuned. The dimensions of the chamber resonate at specific frequencies. Nikola Tesla, the man who gave us the modern electrical age, was obsessed with the pyramids. He believed they were wireless energy transmitters. While that remains a fringe theory, the fact remains. These structures interact with sound and vibration in ways that require high-level mathematical planning. They are instruments played by the wind and the earth. And finally, we travel to the high Andes, Pumapunku. If Giza is impressive, Pumapunku is inexplicable. Here, at an altitude of 12,000 feet, lie shattered blocks of andesite, one of the hardest stones on Earth. These aren't just big rocks. They are complex geometric forms with internal boreholes, precision-cut interlocking shapes, and straight lines that defy logic. The H-blocks found here are identical. To make identical prefabricated blocks requires a template and a manufacturing process. You cannot chisel one H-block, then chisel another, and have them match perfectly enough to interlock. You need a mold or a machine. The mainstream explanation is that they used stone hammers and sand abrasion. But try to sand a perfect 90-degree inside corner into a rock hard enough to cut glass. It is physically impossible without a rigid tool. Whoever built Pumapunku had technology that allowed them to treat stone like we treat plastic. And then, something destroyed it. The site is a wreck. Massive slabs are tossed around like toys, snapped in half. Whatever happened here was violent, sudden, and cataclysmic. The pieces of the puzzle are scattered across the globe. The precision of Egypt, the mechanics of Greece, the maps of Turkey, the battery in Baghdad, Iraq, the acoustics of Malta, the machining of Bolivia. When you put them together, the picture of a linear, slow progression from caveman to spaceman begins to blur. It looks more like a cycle. A rise to greatness, a sudden fall, a long amnesia, and a slow climb back. We look at the pyramids and wonder, how did they do it? But perhaps the real question is, why have we forgotten how? History is a map, but the edges are burned. We are filling in the blanks with guesses, assuming that because we have the internet and rockets, we are the smartest humans to ever walk the earth. But the stones don't lie, and the stones are telling us that we stand in the shadow of giants. Perhaps one day, the ice in Antarctica will melt enough to reveal the truth of the Piri Reis map. Perhaps we will find the missing link between the Antikythera mechanism and the Bronze Age. Until then, we remain detectives at a crime scene where the evidence has been weathered by 10,000 years of rain and wind. Keep looking, keep questioning, because the truth is often stranger than the legends.